Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Heffy Doodle video. Today we're going to be making a big shadow box card. We're going to be using the Quill You Be Mine stamps and dies. We're also going to be using the Cityscape stencil and the brick by brick stencil. And we're doing this for the April challenge, which is Flower Power. And I'll talk a little bit more about it as we go. But I've gone ahead and die cut out two pieces from the big shadow box die. You're just going to need two of those. One piece, there's those two pieces. It will have some score lines when it cuts them out, so I'm just going to reinforce those, and then I'm going to tack that down with a little bit of Heffy tape to my Tonic platform. I did take this outside the stencil, and I put some pixie spray on the back of it, and now I'm just going to use those magnets to make sure that that stays in place. And the only reason why I use the pixie spray is because that stencil is a little bit intricate, and I just want to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to. Because as you can see, I'm using some Nuvo embellishment mousse, and this is the color Old Navy. I'll tack down a little bit more of that Heffy tape just to make sure that I don't put it on the tab, because that's where I need to put my glue. But I want to make sure that this is completely covered, as you can see, and I'm just scraping that across like butter. And then I will peel the stencil away and check it out. I love that blue on blue. It's so pretty. And then I did do it again for one more piece, because you need both pieces. And then I'm going to use some press and seal over my paste before I close it up. But check it out, there's the second one. So I'll go ahead and clean everything up, and there are my two pieces. They're not dry yet, but I'm going to bring in my heat tool and just keep moving that tool around. It doesn't take very long to do. It probably took a couple of minutes, but I just want to make sure that everything is nice and dry before I move on to the next step. And of course, my cat, we've got, not only do we have a messy substrate, but we also have a heat gun and so of course he's got to come in. So there's Miles making sure I'm doing it correctly and making sure that everything is nice and dry, which it is. Like I said, it only took a couple of minutes with that heat tool. And I do need that middle die there, the smallest one there, because I need to create a window in this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that over the top of one of those pieces, run that through my die cutting machine, and then I'm going to use this hill piece and run that through the die cutting machine with the dark gray cardstock, and then I'm also going to use that same one that I did earlier to cut the window. I'm going to do that on this piece of gray cardstock because I'm going to put my Cityscape on it. So I've put this stencil, which is the Cityscape stencil, over the top of my piece of dark gray cardstock. I'm going to tack it down with some Heffy tape on the back, and then I did bring in some distress ink in the color Black Soot, and I'm going to blend that over the stencil, just making sure that everything stays where it's supposed to stay. And it doesn't look like I'm doing a whole lot here, but when I move that stencil away, you'll definitely be able to see that we did. But that just makes it nice and black. And so then I'll pull that stencil away, and I need to line up the other side of the stencil because I want some lights to be showing through. So let me pull that out, and there you have it. So now to line it up is a little bit more difficult because I use such a dark cardstock, but it is, it is doable. So I'm basically going to slide it on, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to see where those cityscapes would be and then slide that on and just tack it down. And I'll grab out some Squeeze Lemonade Distress Oxide ink. And I chose Oxide because that would sit on top of the Black Soot Distress ink. And there you have the lights shining through. I'll use the mask from the stencil as well. So this has lots of uses. And I'm going to put some stars back there with some gold paint that I have. I'm going to flick that all over that background. Get some big splatters in there as well. And then I'll set that off to the side to dry. And now I need to stamp out my images. So I'm going to stamp out one of our little hedgehogs, his top hat, a cane, and lots of flowers. There is where our flower power comes in. So, I mean, you can interpret the challenge basically however you want. And this is a Facebook challenge. It's over on the Facebook page for Heffy Doodlers. And Amanda has a challenge going for us every month. And you definitely want to participate because there's a prize. So, grab your flowers, make a card, however you want to do it, however you interpret that, and yeah, have fun with it. So this is mine. I know, brick background, and I did stamp out lots of flowers, but that's where our flower power is going to come from. You interpret the challenge how you see the challenge. and this is how I saw it. So I'm bringing in various colors. I'm putting those up on the screen for you just to color my hedgehog. And this is all very basic, simple coloring that I'm doing, just adding a little bit of shadowing and shading here and there. Not going too crazy with my color combos. And then for his top hat, super easy. We're doing some C8. I also use that C8 on his nose. And I do leave a little bit of a white spot just to make it look like there's some light shining on his hat, like it's a nice silky top hat. And then I bring in the C10 and then some C4 just to blend those edges a tiny bit, soften those edges. And then for our flowers, we're going to start with some R24. I'm going to color all of the flowers the exact same. I have some R24 that I'm putting down as a wash of color, and then I'll come in with some R39. I eventually decide that I want to blend that darker color even more, so I am going to bring in some R27, but for now, the R24 works okay. I just realized that I really would like the R27 because it just blended that much more. And then for the centers, we're going to bring in that gold paint again. We're going to paint that on the top hat. And because I'm not using like a ton of water, this isn't watercolor paper, you can do this. And it just has this nice shimmery gold paint on there. It's so pretty and it makes everything pop. I really wanted the color combos of this card to be that navy, black, the red, and the gold. We'll tack down our matching dies and run those through our die cutting machine. That's our Heffy Doodle mini die cutting machine. Love that machine. And then we can start adhering everything together. So I'll put down this piece on the inside first. This is our backdrop. And then I am going to mount down our other gray piece, but I like to do it with not only some double-sided tape, but also some liquid glue. It ensures that nothing's going to move, and it's like, double insurance. So I'll peel off that release paper, and then I'll tack that down to the one side, leaving the release paper on the other piece. We don't need that taken off just yet. I'll hold that in place, just making sure that that gets nice and dry. And then I'll grab the other piece here in a second after I tack down some 1/4 inch double-sided tape. I'm going to put that on this little flap on both of our pieces. I'm only going to peel off the one side to start, and again using our liquid glue. And then I'll put down the front of our box. The only downside about doing this such a dark piece is that you do have a hard time seeing what I'm doing. So I do apologize for that, but I just love this card. All right, so now I can peel off the release paper on the inside of our gray mound, and I'll put some liquid glue there, and also on this last piece of our box card, and then I'll just close it up, set it down on top, and then we'll just make sure that that's nice and dry before we start playing around with it. Now we can assemble the rest of our pieces, which would be putting our little top hat on our hedgehog, and then I do want him to hold a cane. Did you like how I put the little flower even on like he's wearing a lapel? And I'm going to have him holding one of the flower balloons. I did stamp out a sentiment and trim it down so that it can fit nicely on the inside of our box. I'll just put a little bit of glue on each of those ends, and then we'll hold that in place. And then we can start adhering all of our other little pieces where we want those on the inside of the box. So he's going to be front and center so that you can see him sending hedge hugs. I love that pun. It just cracks me up every time. And then we can start adding our vibrant red and gold flowers to the rest of our box. And I go crazy putting them all in there. There's only one flower that I don't use, but this was so much fun. I love the idea of a cityscape, but that there are these little flower balloons all over the place. So we're bringing a little bit of the country to the city, right? And it's so fun. And those pops of red are just, pops of red and gold just make me smile. I love it so much. But we'll just build that up, and then when I'm all done, you'll see it here. So check it out. Isn't that super fun? And it closes up so nicely and goes inside of an A2 size envelope just fine and goes through the mail perfectly. But then when the recipient opens it up, it pops open to a box so they can set it either on their desk or their mantle or wherever they want to put it so that they can display it. So happy with that. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Be sure to check out all that Heffy Doodle has going on over on their Facebook page, Instagram, and the blog. And I'll see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.